Welcome to another episode of the Minnesota Meatloaf podcast. How's it going today, Matt?
Good. How are you, Aaron?
I'm doing well.
That's good.
Yep. So, have you been playing anything or watching anything?
Um, I've been playing the Warhammer edition to Power Wash Simulator, and I'm on the last machine, which is the Thunderhawk gunship, and it's a big bugger, so it's taken a while to scrub that puppy down. But
Yep.
that's what I've been playing.
It does it save it? I think it does it
Yeah,
save when
it's
you're
it saves it, and it like breaks it down into all kinds of like little tiny pieces. So like even like the little insignias and like the retro booster, and then when you get the part all the way clean, it like just like the regular power wash, it like ding, and it like bit dings, and then so it's like kind of it's like, oh, rear retro exhaust clean, ding, and it's like, oh, it's so
yep.
satisfying. And
Nice.
that's especially nice when you get a great big piece like of like the side armor or something done, and then a
Uh-huh.
ding, and then it looks all clean and nice.
Yeah. Cool. That is a fun game, I do have to admit.
It's more fun and more addictive than you would think.
Hmm.
That's,
That
I don't know why,
sounds,
but it is. There's just something about
yep.
it. It's relaxing.
Yep. Yeah, you'd think it would be kind of like power washing. Look, how fun could that be? But it actually is kind of satisfying when you get stuff clean.
How about you? What have you been up to?
I've been playing a lot of Hogwarts, the Harry Potter Legacy Hogwarts. That game
Okay.
is fun. I really like it. Skylar wanted it for Christmas, so we got it for him, and he played it for about, I don't know, a couple weeks, and then he got bored with it. So I'm like, I'm gonna play it. So
Nice.
yeah, there's just so much. The game is just huge. There's just so many collectibles and things to find and explore. It's a lot of fun.
Those are my favorite kind of games, though, like where you just the sandbox kind of games where you run
Yeah.
around and 8 million
Yep.
collectibles to find. Like the GTAs are always, there's 900 hidden jumps and
Oh, I
hidden
know.
passages and pigeons you got to shoot, and I don't know what else. Crabs you got to find on the beach, and
Yeah, or newspapers to find. And
yeah.
I remember there was one, I think it was like a newspaper or something you had to find. And it was like Grand Theft Auto 5. It must have been 5. And it was like on a bridge. And like you had to do this. The only way to get it is like to fly a airplane or something and then jump off at the right time so you can grab
Oh,
it.
I
I must have
remember when you were doing that.
I spent a week, I bet, or more just doing that thing over and over and over. I'd get so close and then, yeah.
Sometimes I feel like it's cheating to look online to
Mhm.
find where some of the stuff is, but then when they put it in a spot like that where like even where you when you know where it is, it still takes you
Yeah.
a week to get it just because of how stupid it is, then it doesn't
Yep.
feel like cheating anymore.
No, yeah, I don't feel bad about doing that at all.
Yeah.
So,
But I remember you watching like the YouTube vid on how to do it and
yeah,
telling me, giving me the progress updates.
it's like I get so close and then it's like I jump, I hit it, and I fall off. It's like, great, repeat. Oh,
That's what we call a favorite.
yep. I haven't really been watching anything.
I've been watching Luke Cage on
Have
Disney,
you?
and I'm really getting into it. I actually really like it a lot. I like how all
Hmm.
those Netflix Marvel shows tie together, and apparently now they're officially part of the Marvel Cinematic Universe because, like, Daredevil was in one of the Spider-Man movies, I guess, or something, and
Hmm.
then now they have Echo, and now they're on the official Marvel timeline on Disney Plus.
Cool.
So I guess they always were supposed to be, but I know for a while that was like, no, those aren't part of official Marvel. In case you're a big enough nerd that cares about that.
Yep.
Did you see they're like remake? They making the X-Men '97 cartoon.
Yes,
That's kind
that'll
of
be kind of
cool.
cool. Yeah, yeah, that'll. I'm excited for that. That might be really good.
Yeah,
And then,
it's gotta have the Juggernaut in it.
yep,
He's gonna come out and be like, "I'm the damn Juggernaut."
yep. I guess I do. New episode of the Dark Side of the Ring was on this week, and it was Buff Bagwell. Remember him?
Oh yeah, there's a name I haven't heard in a while.
Yeah, I know. And it was like about him, and he's still alive, and his addictions and stuff like that. But it was good. I really like that show.
Nice.
Hmm. So
So, what are we talking about today?
today we're not going to do another top three. We're going to do something kind of different again, kind of like the phone calls last week. We're gonna talk about concert experiences or concert memories.
Yes. We're just gonna freestyle it again.
Yep, and see how it plays.
Did you want to start or should I?
You can start.
Okay. Well, my first memory is basically my first and second concert and the contrast in comparison between them. Because the first concert I ever went to in my entire life was Weird Al Yankovic.
Oh yeah.
And I think I was a sophomore in high school, maybe.
Hmm.
And did you go with to that one?
We
Were
did.
you nice? And
Was that at the
it was
State
at the
Theater?
State Theater. Yep.
Yep, yep, yep.
So Weird Al Yankovic at the State Theater, and it was fun. And but everyone like it was like a theater, and everyone sat in their seat.
Hmm.
And he came out and he had different costumes for the different songs. He had the fat suit when he sang "Fat," and
Hmm.
there was video clips in between. But there was no like opening band. There wasn't like crowds getting up and dancing. There wasn't anything like that. It was more like a show kind of
Yep,
thing. And then I think less than a year later, we went to White Zombie. Rob Zombie before he was solo, White Zombie
yep.
at was it at the Target Center?
It was the Roy Wilkins Auditorium.
Oh, okay. And it was like we were in the pit.
Yep.
And was that the one with Reverend Horton Heat and Deftones, or I'm getting like three different concerts
I
mixed
know
up.
there's so many, they all kind of blend. No, it was
Deftones
the
was the
Mel
second one. Reverend Horton Heat was at one of them.
yep, it was the first White Zombie we went to was the Melvins opened, and
Oh yeah.
then Reverend Horton Heat, and then White Zombie.
That was awesome. And so we were in the mosh pit bouncing around, and it's Reverend Horton Heat with his big bass and doing their whole thing in the Melvins. And,
Yep,
and it was just the night and day difference between that and Weird Al Yankovic at the State Theater, sitting in your seat, watching a
yep.
little show on the stage next to getting your ass kicked in the mosh pit to
I know.
while Reverend Horton Heat and his band plays the bass.
That was such a weird mix, but it was so good.
Yeah. It was a
You
lot
know,
of fun.
it
And then
was.
I think that was the one where I was like, okay, I need to go find, we had actual seats, I think. And I was like, I need to go find my seat to sit down because I was getting wore out. And I was going up
Yep.
the stairs and I started to feel woozy. And a security guard came over to me and I was like, oh, good, he's going to help me. And he's like, keep your ass moving up the stairs. And I'm like, okay. Like it helped. It was helpful.
Kept moving.
Yeah, exactly. Snap me out of it pretty damn quick.
Put a little pep in your step and
Yes, exactly. So that's my
oh
first one.
wow. Yeah, my first concert was Nirvana.
Oh,
I
nice.
I wanted, for years I wanted to go to concerts, but mom and dad wouldn't let me. I don't know, they thought I was gonna get killed or something or
My
mugged,
parents were the same way.
but because I remember right before that it was the Metallica Guns N' Roses tour. And I wanted to go to that concert so bad. And I think just about everybody in Piers went to that
I was
concert,
just
but
gonna say,
you
I
and
think like
I.
97% of our school went to that concert. I think you and I were like the only two assholes and peers that didn't go to that concert.
Because our
The
parents wouldn't let us. And
next day
but
at school, like literally everyone had t-shirts from the concert.
I remember that. Yup.
Mm.
That's all they talked about for weeks. And it's like,
Yeah.
ah. But Nirvana came and I don't know, I was probably I think 11th grade or I think I was in 11th grade and went to that with the with Dennis Stengel.
Nice.
So two of us skipped school that day and went to the Mall of America, and then we went to the show, and it was a really good show, and that was at Roy Wilkins Auditorium. Back in the day, it seemed like all the good bands went to Roy Wilkins.
Oh, nice.
Is that even still a place now?
I don't know if it is or not.
Because it was right next to the Excel Center.
Yup.
And yeah, I
I
don't
don't
know. You
think it
don't
is. I haven't heard about it for years.
know. Because yeah, I
We'll have to
wonder
Google that after we're done.
what is that?
We'll have to Google it after we're done.
Yeah, because that's where we saw Rob Zombie and bunch of shows.
Yup.
So, but yeah, that's one of my memories is the going to the Nirvana, the first one. So
Nice. Another one I have, I don't know the exact order. This might have been the second concert, or actually third, I should say, because White Zombie would have been second.
Yep.
I know we saw White Zombie and Pantera,
Yep.
and that was kind of the same deal. That one was at the Target Center, though. I'm pretty sure.
Yes. Yep.
Yeah, because and Pantera played. I guess Zombie played before Pantera,
Yep.
and I was like, because I like White Zombie way
I
better.
know.
And that's the one that Kurt fell asleep while
Yes.
Pantera was playing.
Yep.
Um, but the other one, right around that same time, you and I went to Megadeth out in Wisconsin. So, was that in
Yep.
Somerset?
It was Forest Lake or Forest River or something like
The
that.
weirdest got effing place.
It was. It was in the middle of nowhere. Yeah, it was like out by
Like a
the
big
city.
field.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so we drove out there. You drove, I
Yep.
remember, and
Yep.
we went to Megadeth, and there was like 7 or 8 bands. I remember, like, I think Fear Factory, I think, was one of them. I
Yep.
remember I remember it was Corn before they were famous,
Oh
Corn
yeah.
before they were big,
Yep.
and that was kind of cool. And then we ran into a kid from our school, Clayton, and he was smoking pot with some weirdos I'd never seen before, and I'd smoked a joint for the first time in my life.
I
Didn't
forgot
get
about
high though. They
that.
they say you have to smoke it 3 times to get high, but I did. That was one of the first right there. You remember
I
that?
remember that.
We're sitting in a circle, all awkward, and I was all like, and then I always love Megadeth, but Dave Mustaine, every time he talks, it's like, just shut up. Please don't
Yep.
talk, sir. It's
You
like,
know.
I'm Dave Mustaine. It's like, oh God, no.
Yep.
Sing again.
Yep. Keep singing.
Yeah.
Oh,
So that'll mess as my number two story. I guess we're not doing numbers, but I just feel
but
like adding numbers to
it's
things.
your number two. Yeah, we're used to
Yeah.
adding the numbers and um. I'm gonna tell a story about
Oh, good.
Kip Winger.
Winger, Winger,
Yep.
the band that's famous because Mike Judge made Stuart the Nerdy Kid in Beavis and Butthead wear a Winger t-shirt, and
Yep.
Beavis and Butthead was so popular that it totally destroyed the career of Winger, or at least Kip Winger, I think, blames him for it. But I
Yep.
will let you hear your story. But that's a side note.
Yep. So back when I was doing concert reviews and entertainment reviews, I seen a lot of concerts. I went to lots and lots of shows, and I'd get to occasionally do interviews before the shows with some of the bands. Well, the Grand
Mhm.
Casino started a music festival called Rocktember Fest or Grand Rocktember Fest. And their first time they had it, they had 12 bands and it was one day, so all the bands would like the first few bands would literally play for like 10 minutes, 15 minutes, and then they'd be off and then the next band. So they now it's 2 day a 2 day event, but they before they had it one day. Well, I had it so I got to do interviews with every band that was there, and one of the bands was Dokken, and they wouldn't do an interview, but I've seen them before, but everybody
Talking
else
wouldn't
did.
do no talking.
Nope. And then uh Uh, so Kip Winger was like one of the first bands to play, or he did a solo. He was solo with a like a drummer that was on like something. But anyways, he played for like 10, 15 minutes and was off. Well, I knew it was gonna be a problem because the person that I was with at the casino would go to the green room and talk to the managers and say, will you do an interview with this guy from KSTP? And then they were like, yep, yep, yep. Well, Kip Winger kept asking questions. So the person would come back and be like, how many views do you get? How many people watch it? How many people are looking at it? Your entertainment thing. And then, it was just a series of questions. So I was like, oh man, here we go. So he finally agreed to do the interview, and we were in a tent. They were doing meet and greets in like a tent, and I was doing the interviews after the meet and greets, in the tent. And so I usually had a card too with a list of questions because there was like so many bands. I just wanted to keep everything straight. So
Mhm.
they go, okay, you can do Kip Winger. So I was waiting for him. He comes in and introduce myself and all this. And I start the question. I ask him one question, and he's like, "Stop, stop, stop!" And there was like literally like 10 people. I don't know why, but it just like crowd gathered.
Uh-huh.
And we're like, band people and managers and stuff, and they were just watching this interview, and he's like, "Stop, stop, stop!" And everybody's like, kind of looking at each other, going like, what the heck's going on?
Hmm.
And he goes, "I gotta tell you something before we continue." And I'm like, "What?" He's like, "You've got the worst smelling breath I've ever smelled." And everybody was like in shock. Everybody was just like, "What the heck?" And then he's like, "I'm not gonna do this interview unless you get some gum or take a breath mint." And we're looking at each other, and I'm just like, "Okay, do I pull the plug on this or do I continue?" And he's just standing there staring at me. So then I go, "Karen, give me some gum." So then Karen got my wife got a piece of
What a
gum, and
dick.
I know, and I chewed it, and he sat there while I chewed the gum, and then he's like, "All right, let's start this again." And I'm like, "Okay." So I start the question, and I
Like,
have the
hi.
I know, and it was
How
just a
are you
big
today?
scene, and it was embarrassing.
Oh my God, yes.
Yeah, and so then he goes, we start the interview, and then he sees that I have that card, and he grabs the card and he like throws it on the ground, and he's like,
Hmm.
"You don't need this." He's like, "You know my music, you should know it all by now, so you should know what to ask me." And I'm like, "Okay." So then I just go through the
Dick
interview, but
Winger
the
was really
interview,
full of himself.
yes, and the interview went really well though. It was a good interview, but it was just starting. It's like out of all the people that I've interviewed, I've never had that, you know? Like it was just really bizarre. And then he was nice and happy, and then I asked if I could get a picture with him, and he did, and yeah, and then I seen him a few years ago up at Lakes Jam, and he was really nice. I didn't bring anything up, but I'm sure, he didn't remember it, but but he was nice then, but I don't know, it's just weird.
Yeah, were you eating dog shit before the interview
It
there?
must have been. I don't know. I don't know what happened, but yeah,
Raw onion, just like eating it like an
yeah,
apple.
it was funny because I didn't eat anything even before, and
Huh,
it was weird, yeah.
weird. Um, uh,
Next.
I was that made me think of when we saw Death Death Clock. Yeah, Death Clock. Um
Yes.
Metal, so there's the show on Cartoon Network, actually Adult Swim, called Metalocalypse, about a fictional band called Death Clock, which is like a extreme heavy metal band, and people at their concerts always are getting like
Yep.
killed and mangled and stuff.
Hmm.
And the guy who created it is named Brendan Small, and did a previous show. He has done a previous show called Home Movies that was
Yep.
on Adult Swim as well. And so you got a chance to interview him and meet
Hmm.
him, and I came along as the cameraman to videotape it.
Yep.
And I had seen one of his little flyers hanging up, like a black and white, Xeroxed flyer on the U of M campus. So I grabbed it, and so we went and met him. And did we get yelled at before we went in or after? I don't
Both,
remember.
I think.
I think both. I remember we were trying because we were going to go meet him on the tour bus, and we
Yep.
were on our way there, and there was like a big metal barrier that was like 100 yards away from the bus, so we had to
Yep.
walk like way out of our way around. And all of a sudden, someone's like, "Hey, what the hell are you doing there?" And it's like
Yep.
we're here to interview Brendan Small, and then he's like, "Oh, okay," and
Yep.
then he's like, "Who are you interviewing?" And you're like, Brendan Small. And he's like, "That's right, it's Brendan. It's not Brandon. It's not
Yep.
Brendan or something like that." He's like, "I just want to make sure you know who you're interviewing."
Yeah, that was kind of strange. It was like, holy cow.
Is yeah. And then we went on the tour bus, and there he was, and he was watching Crawl on a little TV in his bus. And I was like, "Oh, Crawl, that's awesome." He's like, "Yeah, it's okay." And he just was like totally laid back and chill and did the interview. And then I had him sign my thing, and he wrote like, "Dear Matt, hello," I think is what he like, something
Yeah.
just stupid like that. And then
Yep.
we went and saw the show, and it was really cool how they did it, because the band, the actual real life human band, was kind of in on the stage in the
Yep.
dark. And then they had big screens with like the animated band like playing the songs, and like crazy bullcrap dragons flying around, and lightning and all that. So it
Yep.
was really. And when the roadies that set up the stage before the show were dressed up like the roadies from the cartoon with like the black hoods and stuff, and that was
Yeah.
just a little touch that really brought it all home, made it super
Yep.
cool.
That was
So
cool.
that was at the Myth.
Yep, it was at the Myth. And then
Yeah.
the guy, the manager that was questioning us and yelling at us, sat on the bus the whole time. He pulled a little curtain while we did the interview to make sure we didn't do anything goofy here.
He's like, I'll be right on the other side of this curtain, so don't try
Yep.
nothing.
Yes. And he pulled it. And I'm like, oh, okay.
And then I'm pretty sure as we were leaving the tour bus, we got yelled at again. Like, what the hell are you guys doing over there? We're leaving.
Yep, I
Bye.
know. We're out of here. Quit yelling.
Yeah, so that was a good.
Yeah. Trying to think. There's just so many stories of concert stories that
Mhm.
um man, I'm just trying to
Well, I'll tell one. I'll just talk a little bit, and then you can finish with your. I think you have
the
an
big
Angus
one.
story
Okay.
to finish with. But I'll just tell another. Like I wanted to briefly talk about the Quest. I
Oh,
absolutely love the Quest. Speaking of places that aren't there anymore, that was in
yep.
downtown Minneapolis, and we saw DJ Rap there once. Who opened for her? Was that the Low Fidelity All Stars with
It
the
was, yes. Low Fidelity All Stars and DJ
I
Rap. Yep.
think I was doing that the whole way home. And that was a good show, DJ
Yep.
Rap. But then we went back to the Quest the second time, and it was Lords of Acid with Praga Khan, and Praga
Yep.
Khan is basically Lords of Acid, but without what's her name.
Yep.
Um, but if you haven't ever seen or don't know Lords of Acid, they're kind of their whole gig is it's a female singer with some very racy, sexual lyrics
Yep.
and anyway, and themes. So
Yep.
the show starts. Lords of Acid comes out, and I don't remember if it was song number one or song number two, but they brought out some dancers, let's call them,
Yep.
and it was like holy sheep shit. I didn't realize it was going to be this kind of concert.
Yep.
And then at some point, one of the dancers got strapped to a rack and whipped, and that all happened during the concert. So
Yep.
that was that one stands out in my memory.
That was pretty exciting.
And then our friend Dan Harris was a little obnoxious on the way home, singing
Yep.
some of the lyrics to the females in the car, and I think they're ready to
Yep.
throw him out on the
Yep.
highway on the way home.
Yep. Speaking of the Quest, we saw the Bloodhound Gang there.
Oh my god, that was probably one of the best concerts I ever been
It
to.
was so good, and I remember that they started and the microphone didn't work, and they stopped the show, and the lead singer just chewed out, Jimmy Pop just chewed out the tech guys, and then he's like, "We're gonna start this all over," and then they started it from the beginning, and it was such a good show.
Oh, that's probably I'd say one of the top concerts, best fun, most fun shows I've been to.
Yeah, yep, that was
Right
that
away
was
at
a
the
good one.
beginning, they brought some poor bastard out of the audience and told him if he could drink an entire case of Dr. Pepper before the end of the show, they'd give him $100. And so the
Yep,
whole entire show, he was sitting on stage drinking can after can of Dr. Pepper. And then at the end of the show, Jimmy Pop went up to him and held a bucket under him, and the kid just barfed all into
yep.
the bucket.
But you know what? He got to sit on the stage the whole show. He had the best seat in the house. I think I would have
Yep.
drank that whole, taken my time.
Exactly. It's like screw the $100. I'm just gonna sit here and sip this and watch the show.
Yeah. And then the other thing I remember from that concert, that was such a good show. Was you and I were standing there and they had a balcony, like an upper
Uh-huh.
balcony, and somebody spit, didn't hit us, and you went up there, and both of you and I went up there, and you saw the guy that did it, and we cornered him, and you were like yelling at him, and it's like he was so afraid that you were gonna kill him. You remember
Totally
that?
forgot about it because I'm a big guy and
Yeah.
generally I'm a fun-loving, happy-go-lucky dude. But if I get mad, I can put the fear into someone.
Yeah, and I don't know why, like I spit well because he almost hit us, and you're like, we're gonna go up there. I'm like, okay.
He spit. I think I saw him spit and it landed right in front of me. And I don't know. I'm not I like have a thing like spit is disgusting to me. So I was like, that
Yeah.
fucker, I'm gonna go.
Yeah.
He's gonna get some man.
Yeah. I don't think he thought we were gonna actually go up at him, but yeah,
Learned
yeah, that was fun. That was such a good
a
show.
good lesson that day.
Yep. Uh,
The other thing, one last thing about the Bloodhound Gang concert is the one song, and they go, "Oh shit, here comes Pac-Man!" And when they did that in the song, they actually had some guy come out in like a big puffy Pac-Man suit on
yep.
stage. And
Yep.
he's like, it's and they're like, what's up, Pac-Man? He's like, me, you bitches, I'm high on crack.
Yeah, that was awesome.
Bloodhound Gang.
Such a fun show.
Yep. All right, we got a couple minutes left. I think you need to finish with the big
Okay.
finish.
Okay. One of the probably the biggest, in my opinion, musicians that I've met, and I was on a mission to meet this guy, was Angus Young of AC/DC. And it was way back on their Black Ice tour, and they first announced the show in Minneapolis. So I was gonna go get tickets, and literally I went to log in and something went wrong and I couldn't get tickets for the show. And it was like, dang it. Well, then not too long after that, they announced a show in Fargo. So I got tickets for Fargo, and then they announced another show at Minneapolis the next 2 nights after Fargo, or the yeah 2 nights after Fargo. I was like in Minneapolis at XL or St. Paul, and so I was like, how can I meet these guys? How can I meet Angus? So I went through all my contacts. I was doing reviews at the time, and I contacted everybody I could, and everybody's like, nope, nope, they're not doing interviews, they're not doing interviews or whatever. So I was like, okay. So we go to the show, and my sister works with a guy that knows like all the bands. I don't know what he does. He's, but he I mean, I kind of know what he does, but he knows all these bands and hangs out with them. And we happened to, he told us where the band was staying, where like the crew was staying for AC/DC was at a hotel in Fargo. So we stayed at that hotel, and sure enough, the band was there. I mean, not the band, but the crew, because they were setting up the show, and then that's where they stayed. So after they set up, they were all hanging out in the bar. So then I got to hang out with the whole AC/DC crew, and hearing all the fun stories and all
Nice.
this. And so I asked him, I said, one of the guys, I said, is there any way I can meet the band? And he's like, no, not really. They're going to come in, tomorrow, because this was the day before the show in Fargo. He's like, they're going to come in and they'll just fly right out, or they'll go on to Minneapolis. So they're going to fly in, do the show, and then go to Minneapolis. So I was like, okay. I'm like, but there's no way you can get me in to meet Angus. And he's like, nope, nope. And so we went to the show. The show was amazing. So we're coming home, um, uh, back home from Fargo, and the
Mhm.
guy that my sister knows texted my sister and said, if your brother wants to meet Angus, they're going to be at the steakhouse, because he was hanging out with the crew the next day too.
Uh-huh.
He's like, they're going to the steakhouse in the cities at 7 o'clock. And I'm like, oh my God, do I go or don't I? And I thought about it the whole way home. And I'm like, you know what? I'm going to go. And my mom was like, I'll go with you, because I hate, I didn't want to drive by myself. Mom's like, I'll go with you. So we went down
Aw,
to the cities. We went to the steakhouse, and we drove around, thinking, well, maybe we'll see a limo or something. So we did
mhm,
that for a while. And I was going to get some CDs signed. That's what I was going to, if I got to meet him, I was going to have him sign a couple
mhm.
CDs. So we drove around this hotel, and they had valet parking. So mom's like, why don't we just park? And I'm like, okay. So we parked, and we get in there, and we're waiting in this hotel, just thinking maybe, are they going to show up? Well, I forgot the Sharpie in
Oh
the
no.
car. So I asked the valet, I'm like, this is going to be a really weird question, but I have a Sharpie down in my vehicle. Can you go get my Sharpie? And he's like, yep. So he went and he got my Sharpie, and he was like
Nice.
kind of looking at me like, what the heck?
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, I was talking to mom, and because this steakhouse was next to a hotel. It was, next, in the same place as a hotel, and we were in the hotel lobby. And I go to mom, I go, do you think they're actually going to show up? Because it was almost 7, and I seen a
Yep.
whole bunch of security come in, and there
Mhm.
was Angus and Malcolm. And I didn't
Oh.
really recognize Malcolm, or I mean Angus, because he had a coat on and a stocking hat, and he was really
Uh-huh.
short. You think I'm short, he's like even shorter.
Oh wow.
And Malcolm didn't have a coat on, so I knew it was Malcolm. So I'm like, oh my God, they're there. And as soon as I seen them, I went up. I kind of fought my way through the security,
Uh-huh.
and I go, or no, I said, I came up to him and I said, Angus, and he turned around and he smiled, and I'm like, can I get an autograph? And the guy, one of the security guards was like in my face, and he's like, no, he's not signing anything. And Angus is like, yes, I'll sign. He's like, yep, I'll sign your thing. So then I got
Yay.
another, so he signed it, and then I said, can I get another one? I had two CDs, and the security guy is like, no. he's only signing one. They're gonna go eat. And I'm like, okay. I'm like, well, thanks. And Angus is like, no, I'll sign the other one. Give me your other thing. And then I said,
Nice.
can I get a picture? And that was the guy was like, no. And then because they had like 5, 6 security guys with them.
Mhm.
And one of the guys was like, you know what? Maybe after one of the security guys was kind of nice. And he was like, maybe after they're done eating, they'll do a photo with you. So I was like,
Uh-huh.
okay. So we were standing there and they went down this hallway. It was kind of like an L. They went down the one hallway and they came back and they were walking past me. And Angus, kind of looked at me and I smiled. And then he like stopped and he came over to me and he's like, let's do that picture now. So I was like,
Nice.
okay. So then mom took the picture with me and Angus, and then he wanted to know if mom wanted a picture with them. And mom
Awesome.
wouldn't do it. She's like, no, no, he wanted it. And he's like, come on, let's take a picture. But mom wouldn't do it. Mom wouldn't take a picture with
Aw.
Angus Young. So I think that would have been awesome if
That would have been
I
awesome.
yeah, so but no, I did get to meet Angus Young, but it was a crazy ordeal, but I
That's awesome.
had to turn into a stalker for a little bit, but I
The
got it.
security was about ready to drop you. He's like, "What? This guy comes up, one more thing, I'm gonna drop him on the floor."
So yeah, no, it was pretty cool though.
That's awesome. The valet guy was probably like, "Oh my god, this guy's psychic. He knew ACDC was gonna be here. He asked for a Sharpie."
Yep. Yeah, it's kind of funny. And then went home and yeah, it was kind of fun.
That's
So
awesome.
yeah. But I suppose yeah, the message just popped up that we're out of time and
The Oscar music started playing. The do 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 do.
yep, wrap
Gotta
it
wrap
up.
it up.
Yep. Well, that concludes this episode of the Minnesota Meatloaf podcast. Thanks for listening.
Thank you all. We appreciate all the support and keep liking and sharing and following and subscribing and all that's good stuff.